best talk for the fall semester at Houghton College. Um, for students who are out there watching this, congratulations. We're almost to Thanksgiving, and we're excited about the semester that you've had. And if you have missed any of the best talks that we've done so far this semester, they are recorded and they're available on the Houghton College website. You can go to houghton.edu/best-talks, or you can just go to Google and search for Houghton College Best Talks, and you'll see the webpage right there. And you can go back and you can watch these, the talks that we've done so far this semester. And I can tell you that there are opportunities there for students for internships, just for informational interviews, for people who have opened themselves up to talk to you about your potential career path. And so as you head home for Thanksgiving, you might find yourself with some more time to go back through and watch some of those talks. And I think that will be worth your while. Tonight we have Denise Jones with us, and I'm going to let Carl introduce her in just a second. Please keep yourselves muted throughout the talk tonight. As you have questions, please address them to Carl Sisson in the chat, and they'll address questions at the end of the presentation tonight. So don't hold back. Whatever questions you have as they come to you, send them along to Carl Sisson, and we will address those as we go. I can tell you that Best Talks will continue in the spring semester, and we have some neat panel discussions lined up. We have one for education, we have one for data science, and we're also working on accounting right now. I'm open to suggestions that students have as well. If there's a topic that you'd like to see, you can email me, daniel.noyes@houghton.edu. Let me know if there are some topics that you'd like to see us do or alumni you'd like for us to bring back. We want to give you the content that you will enjoy and that you'll find useful. So I'll quickly introduce to you tonight Carl Sisson. Carl is our Vice President for Advancement and External Engagement. And he has been the leader in my area, and most recently led us to a successful $70 million campaign that has impacted probably everyone on this call and everyone who's watching it, faculty, staff, students, and has really helped to set a solid foundation for Houghton's future, as well as impacting what we do presently. He's also a native of Chautauqua County, which has a little bit to do with why he's hosting tonight's talk with Denise. So Carl, take it away.
Thanks, Dan, and I appreciate your coordination of Best Talks this year thus far. We were joking before we went live here. One of the greatest challenges that I have is often maintaining my composure in a meeting with Dan, and that is both live and virtual. He's great at getting you to laugh and getting a reaction out of you. So as Dan mentioned, I am a Chautauqua County boy, little town of Gary. And as a result of that, when I returned home a few years ago, I had an opportunity to get to know Denise Jones through some mutual connections. And everyone that I've ever spoken with that has worked with her or as a friend of hers has only spoken favorably of Denise. And I started bugging her, Denise, probably about 2 years ago. I'm like, we got to get you on campus. You have to talk. And the reason is Denise's daughter, Dana, was a student here. And I said, before Dana graduates, well, it didn't quite happen. But shortly thereafter, Denise is back tonight. So I just want to give you a feel for who Denise is. She began her professional career in public accounting before taking a position with the Resource Center as its first internal auditor in 1990. And over time, she was promoted first to finance director, then to CFO, to the assistant executive director for administrative services, to the COO, and ultimately she was named CEO in 2015. In her current position, she provides leadership and strategic oversight to the 11 companies that represent the Resource Center and its affiliates. And these organizations employ over 1,500 individuals and provide supports and services to more than 8,000 citizens of Chautauqua County. One of the largest employers in the county, as a not-for-profit organization, TRC supports individuals with disabilities through residential operations, day and employment services, and health services, which include primary care, podiatry, dental, physical, speech and occupational therapies, psychiatry, and counseling services. In addition, the manufacturing divisions of the organization perform subcontracting work for local businesses and the federal government at manufacturing centers in both Dunkirk and Jamestown. In addition to her responsibilities at TRC, she is active on boards of directors for other organizations, including the Developmental Disability Alliance of Western New York, the Collaborative of New York, the Executive Directors Association of the ARC New York, where she serves as treasurer, and she's a member of the Jamestown Rotary Club and New York START Advisory Council. She has also previously served as director and treasurer of the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation, which is a fantastic local foundation. Denise earned her Master of Science in Strategic Leadership from Roberts Wesleyan College, a bachelor's degree in accounting from Binghamton University, and an associate's degree in business administration from Jamestown Community College. She is a certified public accountant. In each of the past 6 years, she's been ranked by Buffalo Business First magazine as one of the most influential people in Western New York. And she also received the Buffalo Business First Women of Influence Award in 2018. That's actually alongside some other notable Houghton connected folks, our own alumna, Kim Kerr-Pagula, and our own president, Shirley Mullen, were also on those lists. Denise currently attends Bemis Point United Methodist Church with her husband of 27 years, Stephen. And in her spare time, she enjoys reading, camping, downhill skiing, and spending time with her son, Christopher, and her daughter, Dana. Dana just graduated from Houghton in December, and she's now a life skills special education teacher at Jamestown High School. So returned back to Chautauqua County to serve that community. And I'm sure she is representing Houghton College very well. And Dr. Freytag is celebrating Dana too. So welcome, Denise. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. And Carl, you're from the little burg of Gary, and I'm from the big city of Jamestown. Jamestown born and raised, and really happy to come back to Jamestown as well. It's a great community. You know, as you say all of these things that I've done and that I've accomplished, I just try to frame it. And you know, I'm just a normal person. Okay. When I meet with my staff, when I talk with our teams here at the Resource Center, I'm Denise. I'm a normal person. I'm as human as everyone else. So when I talk, I'm going to be pretty casual, but I just feel like there's some things that I can share with you that I've learned through my experiences in my 31 years here at the Resource Center. So just to give you a little bit of background about our organization, and Carl talked about some of the services, but just to give you just step back a little bit, the Resource Center is an $80 million not-for-profit organization. We have 3 major product lines. About 50% of the organization is services to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. A third is our manufacturing operation. We typically do between $22 and $26 million in revenue, primarily with the federal government, but we also work with well over 100 local businesses. I'm doing subcontract work for them or providing employees to them. We also have a very large clinical operation that's about a $17 million clinical operation. So I just want to frame that because I'm going to be giving you some examples of leadership and things as I go through this presentation. As part of our organization, we do have a lot of regulatory oversight. Obviously, we're accepting public money, so we have to make sure that we are good stewards with the money that we get, and government makes sure that we are. So we have regulatory oversight primarily from the New York State Department of Health, the Office for Persons with Developmental Disabilities, the Office of Mental Health, the United States Social Security Administration, Departments of Labor, state and federal, Department of Transportation, OSHA, and all of those other things, all of those other oversight organizations. Before I go too far, I just want to remind everyone that we are all leaders in some aspect of our lives, okay? So what I'm speaking to is leadership in general. Even though I'm the CEO, It's equally important for our house managers at the Resource Center to employ the principles of servant leadership as it is for me as a CEO. And I will say that anyone that is hired into the organization as a supervisor or is promoted to a supervisory position in the organization, I meet with them and talk about principles of leadership, because I think it's so important to establish a culture as the CEO of the organization. So I really want to make sure that we are operating as a single unit, as an organization, and we're all pulling in the same direction and have the same ideals and principles. So from my perspective, and I think, you know, I'm confident at Houghton College that you're learning the aspects of a true servant leader. But I just, so you understand what I feel are the concepts of a servant leader, I'm just going to go through my principles of leadership that I share with my team. First of all, I always step back and talk about traditional leadership, because traditional leadership generally involves the accumulation and exercise of power by those at the top of the pyramid. I'm the boss, you're going to do what I say because I say so. That's not a servant leader, and that's not the type of leadership that I want to see in our organization here at the Resource Center. The servant leader, as opposed to a traditional leader, focuses primarily on the growth and well-being of their people. You share power and put the needs of others first and help people to develop and perform. A servant leader, first of all, supports their team. And I tell all of our new supervisors, my job first and foremost is to make sure that they have the tools and the resources that they need to get their job done. If someone's waiting for a decision or for an authorization or something from me, I've made them kind of stop their operations, and I need to keep things going in terms of the organization. It's the same for all of us as supervisors. We need to make sure that we are empowering our people, supporting them, getting them the knowledge, skills, abilities, and the tools that they need to do the job. Second, we want to develop our people as a servant leader. We want to encourage professional and personal growth and development, coach and mentor to problem solve rather than micromanage. We've all had those people that look over our shoulder all the time, and it's not a nice place to be as an adult. You really want to learn how to do it and learn how to do it on your own, and sometimes fail. And it's okay to fail as long as we learn from those mistakes. We want to provide regular and honest feedback and catch people doing things right, provide recognition to our staff. The next component of servant leadership is true listening, but not just listening when people come to us. We want to encourage feedback. We want to seek facts when we get feedback, and we want to value the opinions of our team members. Learn to set aside our own beliefs and preconceptions and listen to suggestions. I always tell people to make sure that they don't surround themselves with people that agree with you all the time. And that gets harder and harder the more you advance through the ranks of an organization. It's very difficult sometimes to get people to present an honest opinion, because they try to provide feedback to me as CEO. Oftentimes they want to tell me what they think I want to hear, but I want to know what they want to tell me. I want their honest and feedback on what's going on with the organization, because again, we can't improve without getting that feedback from all of the parties in the organization and all parts of the organization. The other thing about listening is really important. It's to watch for cues. What isn't being said? Because sometimes there's more to that than there is to the people coming and talking to us. What's going on out there? If you're not hearing anything, something's probably amiss, and you want to go out and find that out. The other component of a servant leader is to build community. Share goals and how everyone's efforts contribute toward reaching those goals. Encourage teamwork. We all need to work together, but we all need to know our place in the organization. And I think, you know, when you're in college, and this is what I tell my staff here that are looking to advance through the organization, and the importance of obtaining your college degree and advancing your education. When you go through your bachelor's degree, and even when I went through my master's program too, you get involved in all your group projects and things. And at the time, I remember complaining. We all complained, but you know what? That's how it is in the real world. That's how we do it at work. We work together as a team because we want different points of view. We want different perspectives on the issues, and we want to be able to get to the best results. And we get to those best results by involvement of as many people as we can as we go through and make decisions for an organization. So building community is part of that. It's also important as a servant leader to reflect and learn. Take time to learn from experiences as a team, as individuals. Make it a regular practice to discuss what went well and what could have gone better. I always remind our folks that, you know what, we typically learn the most from the mistakes that we've made. So it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay as a leader to allow that to happen within the organization and then learn from it. Certainly if something catastrophic is going to happen, you want to intervene on that, but it is okay to learn from the mistakes. And I know my predecessor, the former CEO here at the Resource Center, one of the things that he used to make us do is whenever something went wrong, I remember in particular, we had an OMIG audit, Office of the Medicaid Inspector General, that the OMIG would like to come in and audit, and they'll find one date problem or something in your clinical billings, and then they extrapolate it on the population, not just for 1 year or 3 years. So one mistake can quickly turn to a $300,000 payback before you know it. We went through one of those experiences, and we engaged attorneys and negotiated through that process and really beefed up our corporate compliance to ensure that we were catching our errors before the OMIG would come in and catch them. But after we got done with all that, he actually put in a request for us to do a presentation statewide to discuss how we learned and what we learned from that. And that was so important that we took that time to go back and reflect and learned on what we did wrong and how we had changed it and how we could do better into the future. And it was really a great process for our team. So I wanted to talk about servant leadership in the midst of crisis. For our organization, and all of us actually, life as we know it has changed. What now? And what did that mean for us here at the Resource Center? So we've been going through our strategic planning process for the last couple of months. And I did a state of our organization. And I'll just try to frame this so you kind of understand what we've been going through here at the Resource Center. First of all, we obviously have a pandemic. That pandemic's caused financial concerns and constraints. Obviously, funding has stopped in some areas. We aren't able to get some of the things that we need to produce products. We have staffing shortages, a lack of applicants. Honestly, there's a lack of incentive for some people to work. So people aren't applying for our open positions. Today, I want to say we have at least 120 vacant positions in our entry-level positions between manufacturing and our supports to individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We have traditional service models that are changing, okay? We have a day service model where people come into the day in a congregate setting, and all of a sudden they have to stay 6 feet apart and wear masks. And sometimes we can have that division open. Some days we can't, and we have to shut it down. So things are changing very rapidly. We have an ever-changing regulatory environment. You're probably all getting alerts from Governor Cuomo on his executive orders and changing policies in terms of COVID. I know I get at least a couple of weeks. I have a huge file on that. So we have to stay on top of what's happening with regulation. At the end of the day, though, here at the Resource Center, we're an essential business. We're a business that had to go on. We're in the business of taking care of people. our manufacturing operation is producing first aid kits that are being shipped overseas to the military in the front lines of the Air Force and the Marines, and they have to have them. It was something that was right off the bat. We were told you have to maintain your manufacturing operation. Obviously, our residential divisions, we had to take care of people. People have entrusted the care of their loved ones and their family members to us, and those operations needed to stay afloat. It all got very chaotic for quite some time for us, and we still have those moments of chaos as an organization and crisis. But I'm going to talk a little bit about me personally, and I hope you'll appreciate, and I know this is being filmed and it's going to be put up, but I'm a pretty transparent person, so I'm going to be very open about this. It becomes very stressful, and as a leader, the first thing you need to do is take care of yourself. I know I had to be reminded of this. My family had to remind me of this, but you have to take care of yourself physically. You have to get rest. You have to eat right. You have to exercise and take that break and know when you need a break to step away and step aside. You have to take care of yourself spiritually. You have to rely on God and really to get through the crisis and to maintain yourself as you go through that process. The other thing is to collaborate. Okay, we have a lot of people that we have in our lives that may have gone through things like this before. For me, our whole industry was going through this. So I had a lot of colleagues through all of my connections, the Developmental Disability Alliance of Western New York, ARC New York, my colleagues all across the state. We were on daily calls for a while to understand what was going on. I mean, one of the first patients and first cases of COVID in New York State was in Westchester County. And unfortunately, one of my colleagues, the CEO at the Westchester ARC, had a spouse that was an administrative assistant in their building. So they were hit pretty hard right at the beginning of the crisis. So we were quick to understand and learn from what they were doing to combat the pandemic and to keep people safe as they went through that process. But it's also important to be able to trust them and work with people. I was telling Carl and Dan before we got into the call when they were talking about, just texting during a Zoom meeting or something. I have a couple of colleagues that I trust so much, and I could really go back and share with them some of the emotions that I was feeling, and they were able to share theirs as well. You know, when you're the CEO of an organization, you don't always have those people that you can feel that you can trust and be that transparent with, but I have that. I have those people, and you need to seek that out when you're leading through a crisis situation. The other thing is to listen, appreciate, and respond to concerns. The reality is perception is reality for our staff, the people we support, and their families. We need to take the time to appreciate where they are and the anxieties that they may have surrounding what's happening and how the world has changed. And we need to respond to them, and we need to be careful and care when we respond. Then most importantly, as a leader, I know for me, we leaders all have to stay composed. Composure, stay cool under pressure. Don't become defensive. Don't show frustration. Be a settling influence in a crisis. So in other words, my mantra, never said this before to my staff or anyone, but was never let them see you sweat. Okay, people need to know that you're there to lead them through the crisis with confidence. Once you get through some of the chaos, that's when you start looking for opportunities. And I'm pleased to report that's where we are as an organization. We were probably about a month into the pandemic. So, what I drew back on was actually a book called Leading Change by John Cotter. You're probably using it there in Houghton in some of your coursework, but it talks about the 8-stage process for change. And I'm just going to talk about the first few. The 8-stage process for change starts with 1, establishing a sense of urgency. I think Cotter in his book talks about, the average cycle for change can take up to 10 years unless you have a crisis. Okay, so we're in the midst of a crisis. Change can happen. The urgency is there. Everyone feels it and everyone understands the necessity for change. So just an example of how that played out for us in the early days of the pandemic was that for years, we've been trying to use technology for meetings. We have basically operations in the Dunkirk area, which is roughly 28 to 30 miles from Jamestown. And Jamestown's where our core administrative offices are and a number of our operations. We operate out of 42 locations throughout the county. So it's always difficult to bring everyone together. We've been trying, we had video conferencing set up at a couple locations and things, but it wasn't bought into by the team. People still wanted to drive. So they were spending an hour in the car to drive down for a management team meeting. We were paying them for their time. We were paying them for their mileage. And all of a sudden the pandemic happened and we couldn't get together. So we have Zoom. And like it or not, I think Zoom's here to stay for us because of some of the efficiencies that we've seen with that. Of course, there's a downside to all of that, but you know what? It's given us a broader reach and we've been able to maintain contact with our employees and our managers throughout the organization in a very efficient and effective manner. The other example is within our clinic arena. We, for years, have done telepsychiatry services. 10 years ago, we were doing it as part of a contract we had to provide primary care and psychiatry services to veterans. All of a sudden, our regulatory environment changed and things opened up and we were able to not only provide telepsychiatry to our patients, but also telehealth, telesocial work, and teledentistry, as a matter of fact. So we were very quick to get the technology, the cameras and everything up and running and move our health homes care coordinator staff and our mental health counselors. And they were working remotely from home and actually meeting and providing those counseling services to their patients over Zoom. And it's been very effective. In fact, we've seen quite an increase in the provision of those services. So those are just a couple of examples of how that sense of urgency can really help us implement change in an organization. The second part and stage of process of change that Cotter outlines is creating a guiding coalition. That's what we're doing as an organization right now. We're trying to create that sense of urgency, but also that sense of where are we going as an organization? What opportunities do we have through this pandemic that we need to capitalize on and talk about and grab for moving forward? So what we're trying to do at this organization right now today is to change that what's next. Life as we know it has changed dramatically to how are we going to seize the opportunities? So now what? It's what's next for us as an organization. And it's a pretty exciting place to be. I have just a couple of closing thoughts. The first one is to always act with integrity. Make sure that your words and deeds match up. People are watching you as a leader. And your words and your deeds need to match up. If you're saying you're going to do something, do it. Maintain a positive attitude. If I leave you with nothing else, I hope I leave you with this last thought. To achieve your own full potential, the Carnegie Institute finds that 15% of your individual success is due to technical training, but 85% is due to your personality traits, primarily your attitude. So maintaining a positive attitude is not only important for the organization, but it's important for you as an individual. It's also important to develop and maintain a successful team, and your attitude will determine the attitude of your team. I always leave our supervisors with a last thought, and this is what my last thought with you is. We always need to be aware. People catch our attitudes like they catch our colds. It's so true. When I start getting stressed out and don't take care of myself, it's amazing how the people that work close with me, all of a sudden, it's like the sky is falling in the organization. So you need to understand the impact that your attitude has on your team. So I want to close with thanking you for this opportunity. I really appreciate being able to share my thoughts with you. Carl, you're muted.
Thank you. Denise, those are some great thoughts. Thank you. Challenging for sure. We have a variety of questions on a variety of topics. So I'm just going to try to work my way down the list, and these are good. So most organizations struggle somewhat with employee evaluations. What have you found to be an effective way to evaluate employees to help empower them and also improve their performance? Do you have any secrets there?
I don't have any secrets. I will say we do struggle with that as an organization as well. We do have, one of the things that we use is the alarming our talent management system. And I know they've updated it, but we still use the old, we look at 67 competencies for the job profile to develop a job. It starts with brainstorming anytime we have a new position in the organization. But we also identify the competencies of the individual and the talent that we're looking to get into the position. So one of the things that we do, there's a lot of tools embedded into that whole process, but basically we can do an evaluation. They call it a card sort. So you can go through and you can put like the things that someone has, hands down, they're really good at, the things that they need to work on, and the things that are just not where they need to be. But it puts it into a really good language for that discussion. But we can also compare it to that profile of the job that we had when we started the position. So we can kind of compare where we can do a development plan with the individual. The other thing I would say is that we really try to reinforce throughout the organization that the SPR shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, that staff performance review. Really, that feedback needs to be provided on an ongoing basis. Mm-hmm. Tell people when they're doing things right, reinforce mm-hmm. the good, and let them give them those opportunities for that constructive feedback when things maybe should have been done a little bit differently. I kind of spoke to that a little bit before too. It's okay. You need to create that environment where people aren't afraid to try new things. You don't want to have that disciplinary environment, but that's what we do as an organization. Yeah, and we're not there yet.
Imagine if you only heard once a year how well you are or aren't doing. Right, it's pretty hard to make improvements for sure. Yeah. Here's another question. So you provide leadership to numerous organizations underneath the Resource Center umbrella. And so I imagine you know most about all of those areas, but you supervise experts who are experts in that specific area. How do you manage that? How do you manage that kind of supervision?
It's trust. And you have, we do scorecards. We have the balanced scorecard for every single division. So we can kind of keep an eye on what's going on with that. But I have to trust my people. I'm never going to know the details of their jobs. And I'm not going to be effective if I get too much into that detail of their position. So basically, again, it's back to that servant leadership. I'm here to support them. You have your key indicators and those benchmarks that you look at to see when things are going awry. I'm trying to think, an example might be, turnover at one location. As I'm talking to our IDD director, I'm like, you know what, do we have a leadership problem here or something? We're seeing a lot of turnover. What's causing that? What's the cause of that? And monitoring those types of metrics just from a holistic standpoint.
Yeah, interesting. This is a very specific question, and probably I'm out of touch a little bit in Jamestown, but I imagine this is and continues to be a challenge. Does the Resource Center have an impact on the homeless community in and around Chautauqua County? And if so, how?
I would say indirectly, yes. We actually have what health homes staff, and we have served some individuals that are homeless with that. New York State has a program, it's called Health Homes of Upstate New York is who we're part of, it's Honey. There's a Children's Health Homes of Upstate New York as well. But they're for people that have some co-occurring diagnoses, and it might be like a mental illness and health-related concern, significant health-related concern. They may be on Medicaid, or they may not have insurance, but they're kind of falling through the cracks. And there's we have a whole division that does outreach to find them. And then they look to make sure that basic needs are met for those individuals. So they will look for appropriate housing and connect with different things, because if people's basic needs aren't met, you're not going to be able to improve their health. So they look at that. They look at vocational, trying to provide assistance with finding a job and that sort of thing. We also have some programs that we have a person that's that does transition work from the jail as well here in town, and we do some work on that front too, some limited work.
Sure. So you've been, as I mentioned in the introduction, you've been recognized for your outstanding leadership, and in particular as a woman of influence. Can you talk to us a little bit about the unique challenges that a female CEO faces, and what advice you might give to an aspiring female leader?
It's interesting because in our field, it's predominantly female now. When I was first starting out, I would go to when I was first in the chief financial officer position, I would go to Executive Directors Association conferences, and there would be a handful of women there. And today, it's predominantly women. I mean, my senior leadership team here at the Resource Center is all women. So I would tell future leaders that your future is bright. In terms of the challenges, I think personally, I think some of it has to do with the balance of family and our own inherent need to make sure that we keep that balance with families. But quite honestly, I think that makes us very strong leaders because we're, I don't know how to put this with because we do take a more globalistic perspective on some of the things that we're looking at, because we become that caretaker. And I think it's just naturally, and I'm not faulting men in this, please don't take it that way at all, but I think it's just innate part of our instincts that we're caregivers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You talked about encouraging honest opinions and feedback from your employees, and indicated that's sometimes the only way to improve. I know that one of the challenges is to be critiqued. So sometimes our natural inclination is to be defensive when someone is providing a critique. But I'm curious if you could share a specific example or tell a specific story that maybe that occurred for you, where someone said, you're missing this. But eventually, because you listened and you have this culture of wanting people to share their honest opinions with you, that it changed something for you or the organization.
Yes. In fact, I had an email a week ago Sunday from one of our residence managers. And I interact with them as much as I can, but again, we're in 42 locations, so I don't have a lot of personal contact with them, but I always tell them, if you have any issues, reach out. And she basically had sent me an email saying, Denise, we talked back in July, and you told me you were trying to address our staffing concerns as an organization. And we're still out here struggling. I'm a single mom. I have 4 kids. I have to pull second shifts. I have to be mandated overtime because we don't have enough people here. What are you doing about it? Hard to hear. And quite honestly, you do get defensive when you first hear it, but you have to set that aside. You have to really dig to the core, because she's right. We do have staffing concerns at her part of the organization, but it was important for me when I responded to frame that, because so many times we look at our own little world and think that that's what's going on throughout the entire organization. And realistically, right now, we have 30 residential facilities, and I have 5 that are struggling with staffing. So 25 are not. It's not right for those 5, and it puts us into critical situations that we have to address. So I'm not minimizing that, but you have to get that perspective on it, and you have to share that perspective with the individual as well. The sky is not falling. Yes, we have an issue we're trying to address. And then I talked to her about some of the things that we have tried since July to maintain staffing and to get more people in. So I was able to provide her with some facts. We, for instance, implemented a stay bonus, which we've done in the past that's very effective. September, we announced it. If you're with us in December and you have this much longevity, you get up to, I'm not sure what the number is this time, but like $1,200 that you get as a bonus in December, right before Christmas, if you've been with us 10 years or longer. And if you haven't been, it gets prorated back down for the individuals that have been here a year or even less than a year. But when we've done that in the past, we've had just a handful of people leave our employment during that period of time. So was effective in the past. We're seeing mixed results this time. So I was able to share that. We hadn't sat still on it. Also shared with her some of the increases in applicants that we're getting into positions, and some of the hiring trends that we're beginning to see, to try to give her some hope with that and to stay in touch with that.
So I have one more question from one of our faculty members. She says, thank you so much for sharing your leadership insights, Denise. At one point you mentioned collaboration. In what ways do you invite proactive collaboration and engagement from pre-K to 12 education partners? And what advice would you offer pre-service teachers when it comes to engaging with community partners for the benefit of their students?
Okay, I may have to ask you to restate the second part of that. But
in what ways do you invite proactive collaboration and engagement from pre-K to 12 education partners? Let's start there.
Okay, obviously we're in the IDD world, so we touch the students, not so much K through 12. We're involved with their families and that, but the education system really is involved with those families. So we try to do as much as we can to reach out to them. We have respite programs to assist those families. We also are very much involved with the school districts. We actually have a school-based health program in Jamestown High School, and we're looking to expand that into one of the middle schools here in Jamestown, where we have a nurse practitioner that provides primary care services, a dental hygienist that goes in and provides teeth cleaning and basic dental services to the students, as well as social work services in the school districts. We also have people that work on transition plans. So our employment division and our community-based supports division is going in and working with many of the school districts. We just actually received a grant and are working in collaboration with People Incorporated out of Buffalo and other organizations in Western New York that gave us some funding to actually go in and help the schools, and it's provided, that assistance is provided so the school district doesn't have to pay for that, to assist those students that are transitioning out of high school into work. So those are some of the ways that we're involved with the school districts. Also our health homes program, those counselors, because we do children's health homes as well. So the school district knows if they have a family that's struggling with something, we can provide some wraparound supports for them to make sure that people are getting enrolled in health insurance and getting those basic needs met through that program as well.
Yeah, I mean, your services have become increasingly more comprehensive over the years, haven't they, to try to meet the needs of the whole person. That's incredible. The second part of the question was, what advice would you offer pre-service teachers when it comes to engaging with community partners for the benefit of their students? So the teachers themselves.
I think it's really important for the teachers to understand what's available in the community for their students, especially their students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Because, you know, integration is so important. They're valued members of our community, but we need to make sure that they understand what's available in the community. And I think teachers need to be a part of that process so they can be training their students as they're teaching them, as they're working to transition. So really showing them that what is available to them in terms of work and things that they can do once they are out of the education system.
Okay. So one last question for you. I know you and I have talked a little bit about summer internship opportunities for college students and then career opportunities through the Resource Center. What are the opportunities and what's the process?
Okay, the Resource Center realized several years ago that we need to create a pipeline of staff. So we have what I would call a very robust internship program. In fact, last year we had, I think it was over a dozen students that were going into the medical field that came in through the workforce investment. They came in and we provided them opportunities. That was a structured program to get touches in all areas. In terms of internships, we also have agreements with over 40 universities across the United States. And that's because local students want to be able to do their internships and stay at home when they're doing them. So, you know, all over the place, we create those opportunities. In terms of employment and summer employment, we do try to pair college students up in their field of study wherever possible. So if you go to our website, it's resourcecenter.org. There's a place there for opportunities for students that you'll see, and it'll be, you know, you can ask if for a paid or an unpaid internship, but we've have a college student. She's in dental school right now in North Carolina. She started working for us right out of high school in our dental program. She started shadowing at first, and then she became a dental assistant. So she comes back.
Was this part of the Growing Your Own campaign?
Yes. Yeah, okay. I mean, yes. Well, actually, it wasn't part of that, the structured one. It's just part of the Resource Center doing that. So basically she's come back and, you know, summers and working for us. We've already given her a letter of intent. If she'd like to be employed by us, we would employ her. We don't always have those types of opportunities, but I know I'll give you a sense of the types of jobs that we have here. Occupational therapy, therapy assistants, physical therapy, PTAs, speech pathologists, nursing. We employ a lot of teachers, quite honestly, in different parts of the organization. We do interns in our primary care clinics and our dental clinics, as I said, podiatry, social work. We typically have 3 or 4 social work internships going on at a time. What we'll do out engineers. Our manufacturing division is pretty high tech. So we have engineers, and there's opportunities for engineering students to come back here as well. And then your basic administrative functions. You know, I have an attorney on staff, human resources, public relations, marketing, journalism, any of those. We've had interns in all of those fields.
Yeah. I mean, the organization is so huge and comprehensive. That's what I was trying to express here in this community. Like, if you want to stay here in Western New York, the Resource Center has opportunities. And so, you know, again, Denise, thank you so much for spending time with us. I love the concept of servant leadership. You are living that out. Transparency, integrity, maintaining a positive attitude, something I always talk to my sons about. Composure. I think that's a great attribute. So thank you for expressing that. If you want to communicate, anyone who's on the call or anyone who sees this subsequently, communicate with Denise. I'm sure she would be happy, and I will make her contact information available to you. Just reach out to me here on campus. Blessings on you and your family. Dana, glad you could be here, and keep making Houghton proud. And we look forward to the second semester. Again, we will be running panels the second semester featuring alumni from very specific fields, and we look forward to what those will involve. So blessings on you, your family, and the Resource Center in the days to come, Denise. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye-bye.